meeting. That is so weird.
All
right.
Drinking back there. And then how come I wasn't invited? So.
I know. Right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and call this, the Community Development Commission meeting for December 7th, 2022 to order at 3:33. And let's start off with the roll call.
Madam Chair Villarreal,
Present.
Commissioner Torres. Here. Commissioner Watkins.
Here.
Commissioner Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Excellent. So we have Commissioner Marquez is excused. And Commissioner Padilla may be coming in late. All right, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes from staff?
Yes, the consideration of resolution number 2022, resolution adopting the Midtown Community Development Plan is going to be taken off the agenda.
It actually is off the agenda, at least in the time gov. So I think we're good.
Yeah, okay. Well, then, no, in that case.
Any other changes from commissioners? No? All right, let's to approve the agenda. Second by Commissioner Hughes. So I guess we'll do roll call.
Chair Villarreal,
Yes.
Commissioner Torres.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Watkins.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Great. It is approved, and actually, we could do a voice vote now that all of us and nobody's on Zoom for the minutes, and this is for November 16th, 2022. Were there any changes from staff at the minutes?
No, there was not.
Just, any changes from commission? It said October 19 minutes, should there be November 19 minutes? So we approved these minutes. These are for the last meeting, which was in November, you know? So this is, but this is the agenda, so we approved the minutes from that last meeting, in this meeting. But this is this meeting. The date was wrong? Oh.
Is it? I'm confused.
So in the minutes, it says that we approved the minutes for the last meeting and this meeting, and that is, it was October 19th.
So then that's correct.
Yeah.
My bad.
We're good. Okay, any other changes? No? Okay. Would like to make a motion? I move to approve the minutes. Second from Commissioner Lopez. And all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I should probably abstain since I wasn't there.
Fair enough. One abstention. Commissioner Watkins. All right, moving on to presentation. We have a presentation from the Santa Fe County Affordable Housing, or sorry, Santa Fe County, and it's on the Santa Fe County Affordable Housing Plan. And we have Joseph Montoya in persona and Carlos Gamora on Zoom. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for being with us, and I'll hand it over to either of you.
Well, thank you for having us. We certainly appreciate it. We know we gave just a little bit of leeway for us to be able to get in, so we appreciate the accommodation, and thanks for Cody and Alexandra, who is on the committee, is on the committee, and she's been wonderful in terms of her input and time and energy. And we always look forward to her leadership on this particular. So thanks to Alexandra for allowing us to present. And just to be clear, we haven't quite finished planning. We have planned a little ahead. We still have at least maybe one review of the committee that Alexandra sits on. We hope to be able to make this kind of a standard system in place where the county and city are cooperating on regional issues such as affordable housing. So, and as you know, you may or may not know that me and Alexandra go way back, even more farther back than she wants to admit, but we do. And so therefore, we have a good, strong, working relationship on issues of mutual concern. And then, as you also know, we've hired one of the city's former finest, Carlos Mora, and Site Southwest, to be able to create an affordable housing plan. As you know, in the same way that I believe that you're going to be starting an affordable housing plan soon. The Affordable Housing Plan was a mandatory part of the Affordable Housing Act. The Affordable Housing Act is a mandatory place that allows you to be able to do things that you otherwise wouldn't do because the state's constitutional issues relative to the state's anti-discrimination clause. And so, and I just noticed on your agenda, you have something up, being able to use the Affordable Housing Act in order to be able to provide lower cost of land, which I think is fantastic, to be able to assist in the provision of affordable housing. So this is the process that we all use to be able to accomplish that. Many of the both issues and program related construct.
Can you introduce yourself and just say what you do? Because I don't think everybody
Oh,
knows
I
what
apologize.
you do.
I'm a friend of this guy over here, and so he invited me over. And so he took me out the street and he said that he would give me a beer. And I haven't seen it yet, so I'm trying to wait until I actually.
Tony, make sure you put that in.
Yeah.
Joseph's a persistent house guest.
Yeah.
Just don't give him a plaque, man. You give him a plaque and he's gonna come back every week.
I'll be here every meeting, and you'll love me, believe me, I can entertain, I can sing, I can dance. So my name is Joseph Montoya, my apologies for not introducing myself. And I'm the Director for Community Development for the County of Santa Fe. And I was previously the Director for Community Development and Community Services, which now is completely reorganized for the City of Santa Fe many years ago. I don't know what the previous to Jurassic period is, but it's whatever that is. And so we wanted to make sure that we kind of extended our hand out, and especially working with Renee to make sure that we're collectively kind of working together. And so we're imposing ourselves here. We do in the future probably want to make a complete kind of presentation once the plan is completely finished. But today what we have is aspects of the plan and initial findings and things of that nature. And then I think it may be an assistance for you, especially some of the data sets and things of that nature, in terms of conceptualizing what you're going to do for your own new plan and ways that we can actually also work collectively together. Many of the programs are similar that we're promoting. I think we also have similar land use challenges that we need to be able to accomplish in order to produce and create more affordable housing. I think one of the biggest issues we'll find here is the depth of the problem, right? Even I was surprised, and I've been at this for a very long time, the depth of the problem. And so this is by far the worst affordable housing condition in the history of Santa Fe, not under, I mean, pre-colonial times, right? It's just outrageous, right? So with that, I think we'll stop talking because I ran out of things to say. And
First.
yeah. and my guy who never gives me beer, no matter what. Well, he actually pays me to stop talking. So I expect something from that also. With that, I'd like to do just Carlos. So Carlos works for Site Southwest. He's been an incredible partner and really been a benefit in terms of his insights and in terms of his analytical skills and his presentation skills in both the creation and development of this plan. And I think we formed a very good, strong relationship. And I hope that relationship to continue, because doing a plan is one thing, implementing it and implementing it effectively. But a plan is nothing. It's worthless, except for in this case, statutory requirements, unless you're implementing it. And so that's when the rubber hits the road in terms of capacity and the ability to actually implement the aspects of the plan. So with that, I'm being kicked underneath the table here to shut up.
Are you handing it over to Carlos?
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's
great.
go.
Yeah. Let me share a little bit. So the background of the plan. So the county hired UNM to do some data analysis. They put together a really thorough housing data report. And then we were hired about a year ago and have been meeting with Affordable Housing Plan Committee, Advisory Committee, and going through this process. I wanted to share some preliminary data here. So I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see this page here? I'm just going to walk through some of this data. All right, Alex is holding up her thumb. And then Cody, I also emailed this to you. So if it's easier for commissioners to review it that way, that works too. But one of the first things that I think is kind of surprising in Santa Fe area, this is city and county, is there's a lot of in-migration and out-migration. So in this is 2019 alone, there was over 11,000 people that moved in and almost 11,000 people that moved out. That's a lot of churn, but the population increase is quite small. So in that year, the population only increased by 600 people. When you look at long-term population growth, the Santa Fe area, this is actually I think it's the 2000 to 2020 period is the lowest period of growth since 1910 to 1920, right? So it feels like a lot of things are churning around, but it's actually extremely low population growth in Santa Fe County. And some of this in-migration and out-migration, this out-migration is over 7% of the entire population of the city and county moved out in 2019 alone. That's a lot of people that are moving out, a lot of people that are moving in. Some of this is due to a lack of housing supply, a lack of housing units. The fact of the matter is that neither the city nor the county are building enough housing units to satisfy demand, which is causing a lot of problems with the market, with affordability, with access, et cetera, et cetera. Something that's really surprising that we see, if anybody just please interrupt me if you've got any questions or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of run through some of these and but yeah, feel free to ask questions at any point. So something that's really good to look at is looking at housing prices. So for Santa Fe County, the median single family housing sales price has skyrocketed since 2012, 2016. In 2021, the median single family sales price was almost $700,000, $691,000. That's median, right? So the average is actually a bit higher, but the median single family housing price, incredibly high, $691,000. In 2022, that number jumped almost 20% up to almost $790,000. Again, a truly staggering price. Average rent has also gone up quite a bit. So average rent in 2021 is $1,500. We could say that some of these are due to like short-term impacts like COVID. Some of these are due to some longer changes like in the housing market. So the increase in labor costs, material unavailability, things like that. But when we're looking at the long-term approach, it's really been this multiple decades of low housing construction that has caused a lot of these long-term structural problems with affordable housing. If we look just at 2016 to 2021, we could compare that income only went up 16%. And some of that income, the raise in income, wasn't because households are making more, but it's also because poorer households tend to move out and richer households are moving in. So that's the displacement of existing long-term Santa Fe County residents, county and city we're talking about. So these are really, really worrying numbers. When we look at just existing affordable housing, only 10% of city county households have incomes that could actually afford a median price single family home. That's at a minimal down payment. A lot of households might have a lot of cash, a lot of capital that they could put as for a down payment. But if we're just looking at incomes, only 10% would be able to afford that middle household, which means that 90% of households are not able to afford that just based on income. So the existing housing market is quite unaffordable for a lot of existing households, which is part of what leads to the displacement of existing households. If we look at cost-burdened households, 1 in 3 of Santa Fe County population is cost burdened in existing homes. That includes individuals, households that own their home without a mortgage, who have paid off their mortgage. So having 1 in 3 county residents, city county residents being unable to afford their existing homes is also a pretty staggering number. That's also 49% of renters. So almost 50% of renters in the city and county have unaffordable rent, are currently paying unaffordable rent, which creates a lot of risk and uncertainty for that. So the county plan that we're working on, Joseph Montoya and his crew in community development, we've got a lot of different housing programs and services. You don't have to read all these, but these are some of the typical ways to support housing services, support affordability. So the Housing Trust Fund, rehab program, down payment assistance, inclusionary zoning, giving away county land, having different kinds of loan programs, rental assistance, financing assistance, creating public housing, giving vouchers. A lot of those programs can be really positive, but they're bridging this larger gap in housing supply. And that's again where I really want to make sure, and this is something that's really critical for the plan. There's a huge housing supply gap in Santa Fe. So we did a conservative estimate of what that was. And in our estimate, we just looked at existing employees and existing residents. So that's basically commuters and existing residents. We're not talking about job growth. We're not talking about Los Alamos. We're not talking about increased tourism. We're not talking about Airbnb, none of those things. We're just talking about existing residents and existing commuters. And we found that there was a gap of over 17,000 additional housing units. That's beds and doors and bathrooms, right? We're not even getting into what's affordable, what's not affordable. It's really just that gap. And that gap creates some of these large supply price increases. That gap ends up excluding large proportions of the population. When we start to divide that out, we find that the gap for subsidized and affordable rental units is over 6,000. And again, that's different than how MFA calculates it, which is more getting at the cost burdened households. But just the need for those units, those physical units, we're looking at over 6,000 units needed just to help support some of those rental, that rental market. We did a pretty thorough look into land use. Now, this isn't rewriting the land use code. We're not comprehensively fixing the land use issues that are found in the city and the county. But something we found in looking at prices was that to be able to get affordable housing, if you want to have affordable housing for purchase, you need to be getting at least 10 dwelling units per acre. Anything less than 10 dwelling units per acre is almost categorically excluding affordable housing for purchase. And then similarly, housing for rent. So if we're looking at housing for rent, you kind of need to start getting towards the 14 to 20 dwelling units per acre before things start becoming affordable. So in the county, a lot of the county, the standard density, the by right base zoning density is 1 dwelling unit per acre. That 1 dwelling unit per acre is fundamentally unaffordable. We could try all of the housing programs and services. We can increase the size of the Housing Trust Fund. We can build more supportive housing. We could build more subsidized rental housing, but none of that really gets to that structural issue that the land use allowances that we have just aren't supporting the population and prices that we need in the county and the city. So a lot of our recommendations, we've got recommendations going into how housing programs and services should work, but a lot of the recommendations are also looking at land use policies, land use issues, trying to think about different ways that the county can increase densities to get to an affordable and more naturally affordable prices. So mainly looking at targeted areas like in the community college district area, trying to figure out how to allow that and facilitate more of those kinds of housing units. That's all I have as far as data. I know we're pretty constrained on time, but yeah, the next steps, Joseph kind of mentioned this, we're going to be doing internal review in December. So we're sending this to the committee, we're sending this to staff, and then also to MFA, the State Mortgage Finance Authority, and then it'll probably be going to the Board of County Commissioners in January and February. But yeah, with that, I'll open it up for some questions. Cody, let us know if we have time for questions or, yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you, Carlos, for your presentation and for your work on this alongside with Joseph. I think this is good data to be able to like conceptualize the crisis. And I mean, obviously this is for the county city, so it would be good to even like narrow it down for us specific for the city. I'm going to go ahead and open this for the commissioners for questions. We'll start with Commissioner Lopez.
Yeah, I just want to know what it looks like. Is Terra Contenta, how many houses per acre is it are out there?
Terra Contenta is on the average of 5 units per acre.
5, and you're talking 14 to 20 per acre?
Correct. That excludes actually the multifamily portions of it. So when we designed Terra Contenta, the design elements of it were considered. We took what were standard kind of font sizes and street elements of Santa Fe's east side. And then looked at the density. We weren't able to achieve the density. There was a dispute between myself and the planning department in terms of what we're trying to do is recreate Santa Fe in the same pattern language that Santa Fe had originally been, which is a higher density walkable environment. And so trying to recreate that. And so we weren't as successful as I wanted to be with when we created the Terra Contenta, but I wanted to be, but primarily because of kind of structural issues and interagency fighting.
I'm like, how 14 to 20 units per acre?
So
You could be-
envision downtown Santa Fe, right? And in terms of how that feels, and instead of commercial, it'd be residential.
So,
And so
but
it'd
it
be.
becomes almost like apartment buildings.
Yeah, we're talking, so when you look at something like that, when you're looking at 7 units per acre, you're talking like townhouses, single family townhouses that are attached, right? And then when you're getting to 8 or 9, you're doing double stories, thinner triplexes, and then from there you start growing. That's correct.
Okay. I needed the picture of
But like
that.
large multifamily developments. So are you all familiar with the multifamily development that was approved for Airport Road? I think it's Airport and South Meadows. I think that project is going to have affordable housing, and I think that's 50 dwelling units per acre.
How many
Did you
stories?
say 15 or 50?
No,
I think that one is 50. And
Oh,
so in the C50, yeah, in the C2 zones, you'll generally find that developers, when they're building affordable housing, I'm not sure if somebody else is more experienced with some of the land use stuff, but in those zones, they're usually building in the like 20 to 50 kind of dwelling units per acre. That's the 3-story kind of developments. It's looking at the, yeah.
but there's about 20 units per acre. 20,
Yeah.
20, but the land use code, maximum land use code allows in Santa Fe right now. So.
And then
you have open space, you have parking requirements. You have a place for this guy to hang out and do barbecue and drinking.
3-story you said is how many?
Yeah, so.
3 stories usually around 20, but it can go, I mean, sometimes you could get like 40 units per acre, probably with 3-story. Sometimes it'll depend on the size of units and then how they're kind of structuring those, how efficient those are. But yeah, you're generally looking at probably 20 to 30, 40 at 20 dwelling units per acre.
What about Siler Yards? What's that at?
Seiler Yards, I forget. I did the analysis of that recently. I think it was somewhere around like 15 to 20.
I think it's 16. if I'm not
16.
mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking there.
And the reason why that's 100% affordable though, is because of federal,
Right.
one, the city
Right.
participated in providing land, of course, as we all know. And then.
And that
federal-
also took 10 years to kind of get the funding for. And so it's hard to actually get those projects. You know, the Seiler Yards are one-offs. Those are like lucky unicorn kinds of projects. You're able to get all the funding, you're able to get it through. You know, it takes 10 years. It's a long, slow process, but you hope that you can make it work. But that's not getting at the structural issue, right? The structural issue is that most housing we're building is entirely unaffordable for existing households and is built at really expensive densities, not just to provide, build, and sell that housing, but also for cities to maintain all that infrastructure. So it tends to be quite expensive infrastructure to build all that.
Also think about if 90% of Santa Fe's can't afford that, then who is buying? Right.
Sure.
And what is that doing to our community?
Did you have any other questions?
No, I mean, it just struck me that that's gonna be a hard sell. If you're gonna change all the, at the council and the county commission level, those densities.
Well, we're already building them,
Yeah.
so I think if you explain it the way we just did, you can conceptualize it instead of like when you first see the number, yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot.
No, I hear that.
I do think one of the problems is that, and the city's far ahead of the county, so the county's just doing their first multifamily developments now, both internally, so I'm personally building multifamily developments, and in addition, we're approving multifamily and actually we're financing 2 multifamilies. I think the issue though is in terms of land use and urban design is, I think the way that it's been happening, Santa Fe is developers are finding spots that there's no multifamily zoning available. So they're going to commercial, right? Which has less restrictions. And then what's happening is there's these commercial spots everywhere, right? That doesn't provide a sense of, hey, this is where we're going to provide the density, and this is where we're not, right? So if, for instance, someplace like originally, this again, way back in the Jurassic period, where the area around Airport Road, the Studios intersection, the idea was build a new uptown and have higher density walkable developments. And then so you can have a place where that is comfortable. That's where you do it. This is where we're going to be able to do that. And so they provide a walkable space with amenities so that you're not just having an apartment complex here and apartment complex out there. And then it's like, well, that doesn't fit the context. Well, I have to agree. It doesn't fit the context of that immediate area, right? Create the area where the context works.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Torres and then Commissioner Villa. So to follow up with Carla's question, is the next development in Tierra Contenta changing at all? The acreage? No, so I've got 5 acres. I mean, 5.
And my apologies for not being as formal as you said, Madam Chair, Commissioner. I know the fact that there are new design guidelines. Those new design guidelines didn't actually increase overall densities. So what's going to be built there will be substantially less affordable than when I started building.
And
Are we giving a drop in the base? I mean,
I would agree. But that I don't.
did you wanna add something, Carlos?
Yeah, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I just wanted to add this thing I've got on the screen right now is some pro formas for prices at different densities. And so this is kind of looking at getting towards kind of the minimum cost of density, the minimum cost of housing at different density levels. So we looked at what does it kind of cost to build a housing unit at 1 dwelling unit per acre, at 4 dwelling units per acre, at 10 dwelling units per acre. This is county numbers, so this is going to be different than the city. So take that with a grain of salt. But generally, we found that in the county, going from what they allowed, the 1 dwelling unit per acre to 10 dwelling units per acre, lowered the cost of housing by 49%. So a huge huge saver, right? From $780,000 to almost $400,000. So that's just getting development and construction efficiencies. And so this is what we're kind of relying on. Again, the numbers will be different for the city, but this is kind of seeing how the numbers work out for that.
And Carlos, and I can't remember the numbers now, but transform that, what percentage of San Feans can afford the 783 and what percentage can afford the 396?
The 783, I think that's the 10%. Basically, the incomes 10% can afford the 783, and then the 396. Let me pull this up real quick.
I believe it was 40%. I don't have a line, but
Yeah, 396, you're probably looking at around 40%, 38, 40, somewhere around there.
still means, just to be clear, 60% of the population can't still afford to live there at this density.
Right,
This is what how we're destroying our community.
right.
I'm sorry. I didn't-
Is there?
I get it.
Is there any way of changing the next phase of Tierra Contenta to meet more of this concept?
Managed
At this
commissioner,
point,
I have
Alex can
power over.
speak to that,
judgment
I
there.
believe. Alex, did you want to share? Can you unmute? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, the next phase of Tierra Contenta actually has a zoning minimum. Rather than establishing zoning by tract, which is generally how master development is done. So it'll be, this is the 5 units per acre, this is the apartment tract, and it's 15 or 20 units per acre. There's a established minimum. And then it's up to the various developers to develop so that the average density meets that minimum. So there may be areas where it is much lower, and there's parts that there's topography there that wouldn't allow for higher density building for a lot of reasons, for a lot of floodplain and terrain reasons, which are, I think, important to pay attention to. And then there's flat land where there can be much higher density. So I'm not sure, I don't want to disagree with what Joseph's saying, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think houses are going to be more expensive just because everything's more expensive right now. You know, but we're still, Tierra Contenta will still achieve the 40% affordability and a zoning minimum.
Madam Chair, Alexandra, what is the minimum?
Well, I knew you were going to ask me that. I think it's 12, but it might be 15. I just don't remember off the top of my head.
Any other questions, Commissioner Curtis? No, thank you. Any questions, Commissioner Watkins? Commissioner Hughes, Commissioner Padilla? No. Any more questions? I just had a question about the, let me just finish that thought. How do you calculate how many? So you had a number of 17,216 additional housing units needed. So do you look at trends of growth, or how do you come up with that number?
Yeah, great question. So Madam Chair and Commissioner, so the number that we got, so the population, UNM expects that the population between 2020 and 2025, that the population increase, and they're expecting a pretty low population increase. So they're looking at kind of state averages, and their assumptions are that Santa Fe isn't really growing and won't really grow in the future. So I do want to preface that. But they're estimating that in those 5 years, there will need to be 5,000 additional housing units. So we take that number, 5,000. The city and the county have built, I think, you know, we could probably estimate, we subtracted that. Let me try to pull this up real quick. All right, here we are. So we estimated that the city and the county in the last 2 years have probably built around 26 1,500 units. And so we subtracted that. And then we took the amount of commuters. So I think there's around 25,000 commuters into Santa Fe. We took that number. We know that around 90% of them have moved out because of high costs, and that 50% of them would move back if there was available housing. So we kind of just took half of that number, estimating that half of them would move back if they could, and then also added on to that the number of existing overcrowded units. So the number of just physical units where you have basically 2 households in 1 unit and you need a second unit. So that's, again, we're not talking about affordability. We're not talking about solving equity issues. We're not talking about trying to improve, significant areas of the housing market. This is really just looking at there needs to be an extra door and an extra couple bedrooms just for existing households. If that wasn't clear, feel free to ask some follow-up questions on that too.
Yeah, that was helpful. And then I assume that the 6,232 subsidized or affordable rental needs, that's for city and county. And then you base that on people's, is that
Yeah,
like, are you looking at?
So that's actually just looking at UNM put together a proposed formula that looks at what Santa Fe should have if it had national averages for housing. So just estimated a percentage gap in Santa Fe based on national housing averages. So that's not as specific as looking at how many people are priced out of their existing units. It's just looking at that gap between the income of a person and where we kind of think those numbers should be based on national averages. So we're talking, I think it's very conservative, but even the very conservative number, the numbers are pretty staggering. It's pretty staggering seeing such high numbers with such conservative kind of calculations.
Yeah, I was thinking if you calculated in people on waiting lists for subsidized housing or Section 8, then that might actually grow. But that's what I was just wondering how you calculated that.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we have the Housing Authority, county's housing authority, we have over 2,000 people on our current waiting list. And what's actually happening is it's way worse than that. So people wait 5 years to be able to get a, they'll actually get a voucher. They have 120 days to be able to find a place. They can't find a place in 120 days, they lose it. And so they have to get all the way back. So we have this unbelievable amount of a gap in terms of ability to be able to address people's needs.
On that point,
Yeah.
on that point.
Yeah. Is it still that you can take your voucher out of here to another city? So how many people are actually leaving because they couldn't find one?
Actually, that's a very good point, and that's exactly what's happening. So not only are then we losing the people who are living here, right? But we're exporting out federal money that's coming to us and giving it to another community,
Right.
even worse.
The other question I had was just the numbers of like in migration, out migration, which we've known that that's been an issue, just hearing from people, from a qualitative point of view, but I'm curious, since your numbers are 2019, we've had a huge influx of folks moving in with the Zoom boom. And do we have numbers to kind of reflect that for 2020 and 2021 at this point? To show what that in migration, out migration is?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, the numbers are still somewhat preliminary. It's hard to always compare them, but looking at 2020 and 2021, we're kind of looking at similar numbers. So I think in 2019, estimates are that around 7.2% of the entire population moved out. In 2020, it's looking like I think it was somewhere around 5.5%, and then in 2021, something maybe around 8%.
So you didn't see numbers Oh,
Sorry, say that again.
I'm curious if the numbers actually were higher for the in-migration, just based on what we were seeing.
In
with the
20, according to the census data in 2021, the in-migration was a little bit higher. It looks like in-migration was around 12,500 as opposed to 2019, 11,400. So a little bit higher. And again, you know, when we're looking at census data, kind of at this brief of periods, it's hard for census data to always pick this up. But census data at least is saying it wasn't a huge increase between 2019 and 2021, which is a big question mark.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think that and if you look at it, and we'd be happy to provide the base data that we were able to get from UNM. But the most striking thing is the demographics of who's moving out, and the income levels who's moving out versus the demographics of those people. That's the most telling.
Commissioner Padilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, Carlos, in reference to construction costs, you identified City of Santa Fe versus Santa Fe County. Is there really a difference between the two? And what are you seeing as far as square foot cost for either single family or multifamily housing?
Madam Chair and Commissioners, we didn't actually look at construction costs in the city. So we evaluated what those were in the county. In the county, I think we kind of came to, I think it was around $400 per square foot.
Single family?
For single family. But some developers were telling us that they could get less if they're really doing the kind of industrial style, really cutting corners, which is some of what they're doing when they're trying to not do the luxury housing. Because some developers are really like, we don't want to do luxury housing. We don't have the market for that. We're trying to build, you know, cheaper housing. And they're still kind of saying like trying to decrease those costs are kind of uncomfortable. But sometimes they're able to get a lot lower than the $400 per square foot.
So you had mentioned density, and I think everybody kind of cringed when you mentioned the numbers, you know, 20 and higher per acre. Question in reference to Carl's, what would you say Santa Fe downtown and east side, if you had to say how many single family units per acre are in the typical east side, what would you calculate that being?
I'm trying to think back when I was working for Santa Fe Land Use Department, but I know that some of the historic and downtown areas in Santa Fe's east side, I want to say they were getting to the 10, 14 dwelling units per acre. You know, when we're looking at kind of the small units, especially when you've got ADUs, when you've got, you know, a lot of funkiness, that funkiness really gets you more density, which is where, you know, density doesn't always mean height. Density can also mean historic building styles. Historic building styles tend to be a lot more dense than the existing tract homes we're looking at. But John, to your point, probably a lot of that is towards the 7 to 20 dwelling units per acre compared to a lot of new housing developments are more around 5.
So I think
so we did very specific studies on the east side because we were trying to emulate the building patterns, right? And so in the most dense areas of the east side, it was 7 to 10 units per acre. And it's exactly for that purposes with the smaller street widths, you know, very clustered. There was a lot of, you know, traditionally, right, we build our homes and then we added our mother-in-law and our father-in-law and like came around, like kids, and we added, and then, we subdivided.
Yeah.
Sold my cousin, and he was selling drugs, you know, blah, 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 right? But the building envelope kept growing, right? And so you had an ability to have a lot higher density development. And if in fact we had created that, right, you just continued to do that rather than posing this 1 unit per acres and the rest of the east side area, then we would have a lot more affordable traditional building pattern in Santa Fe.
Right. So the point I was just trying to make is that I know, you know, everybody cringes when we talk about higher density, but it's a density that a number of, we've seen for and been familiar with, especially those that were born and raised here. You're familiar with it. You grew up in it. You know, I think we unfortunately have gone away to where we just want one residence per acre. That's what we're all kind of, you know, dreaming of, but now the dream is not that anymore. It has to become more dense. And I think there, you know, land use guidelines, development standards and so forth have to move to the more dense, allowable density, really to make it affordable again, I believe. Carlos, would you and Joseph agree? I mean, we got to be more dense to make it more affordable.
Yeah, the numbers are clear, right? That's why we
Yeah.
did that did.
Yeah.
Make it more clear.
Well, we set a precedent historically, but then when you keep going on Bishop's Lodge, then the properties went out of control and they have like 1 acre, 2 acres per dwelling unit. It's completely spread out and not reflective of like what the downtown core was like. So, yeah. Were there any other questions that you had for the team here?
No.
When is the report going to be completed officially?
Madam Chair, we have one more, I think that's 12th or 13th, I believe, a review. If in fact we finish that, then we'll take everybody's review comments. We'll have a few more presentations, but we hope to have something completed and available for Mortgage Finance Authority by mid-January for sure. And we'd be happy to be able to present, if you so wish, kind of the whole plan and the different criteria systems in it. And we want to be able to share as much as we can. And then, of course, and within that, you know, we have to share, I think I shared with the chairwoman, a project that we're doing internally. But it's in the city. The city provides the necessary water and infrastructure. And it's called Nova Second. And it's a 130 unit development. We'd be happy to give you a presentation on that. It'll be 100% affordable. It'll be 100% green, zero energy use. Zero net energy use.
Where's that? Nova Sequia?
It's on Camino Jocobo, which is near airport and Citrus Road. And you know, we've already purchased the land. We've already done the design stuff. We're going to get together the financial package now. And I'm putting together the financial package.
What about your office?
Yes, the old office. Yeah, I'm a downtown guy. So, yeah,
Yes, we would like to hear 100% affordable, excuse me.
that's great. That's great. And so, be happy to share that because, what we try to do is take, elements of the indigenous architectural styles, both Hawaiian and Hispanic architectural, not styles, but densities and formations, right? It's more like a modern building, but the massing and things of that nature are far more familiar. And, you know, we have a lot of amenities in it, creating a pedestrian bikeway system, and it's right next to a commercial area, and so we'll have a nice pedestrian and commercial area, so. But more happy to present that kind of stuff because it's in the city, right? So we'd be working with the city in terms of, I see more of a joint project. We're not asking the city for financing of it. I'm begging Alexandra for money all the time, so we may be doing that. But we do want to make it even though the city won't have jurisdiction over it's, we don't need zoning, but over its regulatory processes. We do want to do it in a joint pattern and work with the city to make sure that everybody feels comfortable.
How many units per acre? Excuse me, what's it?
18,
But what's the total units?
130.
Are these rental or?
Right.
Thank you, Joseph.
And we have somebody in the room who actually helped me get that land. He can raise his hand if he wants to.
Which leads us to the next item we have, but thank you so much. Thank you to you both, and we look forward to seeing the final plan, and thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Can we have his light? What? Light. Oh, yeah.
We have.
That was up to me, I'll circulate.
Excellent, great. Thank you. We're moving on to item 6 for discussion agenda, consideration of a resolution that's being sponsored by Councilor Garcia, myself, and Mayor Weber. And it's a resolution adopting a strategy for donating or selling at below market value a property identified as Las Estrellas Tract 6A to a developer certified as a qualifying grantee under the New Mexico Affordable Housing Act to develop Santa Fe Homes program homes, low price dwelling units or units price restricted through another affordable housing subsidy, and approving an announcement to sell the remaining 7 Las Estrellas lots with a local preference. And we have Terry Lees, who's our asset development manager, here with us, as well as Alex. So I don't know who wants to start, maybe just to give a little bit of background, and then I could also share like, you know, some of my perspectives of why I'm supporting this. So who wanted to start? Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm going to start. So then Alex, please chime in. And I came in 45 minutes early to print the material I would need for the presentation. And after 45 minutes, I have not one page. So
Okay.
I'm just going to start with a 30,000 foot overview. More than 50 years ago, the city entered into a development agreement with the developer to develop the land that the city owned at the time in the 599, 284 area. And the developer, in that agreement, the developer was to do just that. Develop the land, put in a master plan, sell the tracts of land, and then upon sale, the city would be reimbursed. There was a revenue sharing where the city would receive most of the proceeds of the sale of the land. Like I say, that was over 50 years ago. Over the years, I can't speak to why that relationship deteriorated, but I think it was right 3 to 4 to 5 years ago. There was a settlement agreement with the then current developer, Santa Fe Estates Community Corporation, I believe. And in that settlement agreement, the city received back 9 tracts of land, which is subject to this resolution, a matter of, I think, $2 to $3 million and some water rights. And I think for the last 5 years or so, the city's been has no desire to be a residential real estate developer, so been looking for what to do with this land. And I know that there was an announcement for a sale 2 or 3 years ago that never happened. Last year there was a resolution that never passed, and so now we have the resolution before you today that really, excuse me, Councilwoman Villarreal, Garcia, and Mayor Weber. And it's really Councilwoman Villarreal and Garcia who have really hammered this resolution out with Assistant Attorney Salazar. So they, kudos go to you. Really, the recognition should go to the councilors. But this resolution here before us today, it really both of the resolution focuses on track 6A. Backing up, of the 9 tracts of land, there are 7 tracts north of 599. And in this resolution, those will be announced for sale. We're going to sell the 7 above 599. The 2 tracts of land south of 599 is a small tract. I think it's 8B1, which is in the master plan. That is a community services use. That's 1.5 acres. But most of this resolution focuses on tract 6A, which is south of 599, also just short of 20 acres. And in the master plan, that is designated for residential. And so the resolution here before us today is really lays out the parameters to either donate or sell that tract of land to a affordable housing developer. And well, like I said, develop affordable housing, and that's where it falls into Alexander's review. Reading anything out, Madam Chair?
Just to give Alex a chance, is there anything else you want to add about the background or how this kind of came to be?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I just wanted to note that contributing free land is a really great way for the city to support affordability. This is a nice parcel, but it's not a very easily developable parcel. So I think we'll also have to be pretty flexible in what we think, what proposals meet both affordability goals, but also other community benefits.
Yes, and I guess I would also add that, I mean, there's a reason why those tracks hadn't been sold yet by, or developed by Las Estrellas. And so there are challenges, terrain mostly.
Yep.
And, but in that master plan, it actually has percentages of affordable housing requirements in all of the tracks, I believe. I think every single one of them has it. What we were hoping to achieve is with track 6A is, it's in a different place and I know there'll be challenges, but I think it was just made more sense to try to focus on affordable housing on that track. Especially if there's a potential to donate land and make that more affordable. So that's why we focused on track 6A specifically. The other thing I just want to give credit to Councilor Behill Coupler, I think it was in 2020, tried to do a local preference resolution for all of the tracks to have some kind of local preference. And I think the wording wasn't exactly right and there wasn't complete agreement, so it didn't pass with the governing body. So Councilor Garcia and I kind of regrouped and we were looking at the piece of like what a local preference could mean. And I think it just helped to meet with staff and actually go out there and get Alex's perspective on what possibilities we have for all the tracks, but specifically track 6A. So I think that's where we came to be having a two-part, having 6A as a qualifying grantee for affordable housing, and then also all of the sale of the 7 for Las Estrellas tracks will have a local preference, and we have it more exact to follow state local preference. So that's kind of where we're at here, and it took over a year to work on it. So I appreciate staff's, you know, just all the work that everybody's done to try to get us to where we are today. And so I will open up the floor for questions from commissioners. Okay.
Congratulations, for these, it's 17,000. But good for you, sounds good.
Yeah, it still has to go through, obviously, this is the first committee, so we have a few more committees to go through.
Any movement from the council is.
There was something that I was wondering, if that's how it's intended to be on page 4. Under innovative design and sustainability targets. The applicant demonstrates the ability to design and construct buildings that achieve high standards of sustainability, have innovative designs and exceed the green building criteria in city code. Is it intended to be to exceed or to meet or exceed? Like the option is to stay where the green code is or to go beyond, because the way I'm reading it, it's that it must go beyond the green code requirement. And maybe it just needs meet or exceed.
I'll let Alex maybe speak to that. These are criteria that we would hope that when a qualified grantee offers up a potential project, they would look at these and they get ranked. But Alex, could you speak to, oh, and by the way, these are also the standards that we all set from the Alto Creek property. So Alex, could you explain maybe if it should say meet and exceed, or if there was another reason why we, or you included the exceed the green building code criteria?
Well, I think, Madam Chair, I think the intention was that the meeting just has to happen, right? Because that's in the code. But anything that exceeds the bare minimum, and it's not a bare minimum, it's pretty high standard, would then have a competitive advantage in terms of being awarded the land or a greater discount of the land cost if it wasn't a full donation. So I think the idea, and you were right, that's exactly the same standard that we approached the Alto Street donation with, which was there's a baseline, and then anything over that will be scored higher. Did that answer your question, Commissioner Torres?
Good question. Anyone else? Any other questions? All right. So this is a voting item. Well, this is basically voting for recommendation to move on to the next committee. So what is the pleasure of that?
So what do you need? What kind of action do you need here?
Just a motion to, if you choose to, recommend approval.
Okay, I move that we recommend approval. Or.
Of the resolution adopting a strategy. for the-
Approval of, resolution 2022 and encourage the council to, adopt it, is that?
Sure.
Okay, is that adequate?
That works. So we have a motion, second, we have a second by Commissioner Fotis. I guess we could do, you all okay with the voice vote? Since we're all here, yeah, for the first time ever. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you all. So moving on to the next item, which is the approval of our 2023 Community Development Commission meeting calendar. I don't know if anyone take a look at the dates.
Yeah.
There are regular dates. Sometimes we don't have all of them, but for the most part, we have a date for every month, which is the third Wednesday. Any questions for that, Commissioner Fowler?
And thank you, Madam Chair. And those dates, we are securing those dates onto our schedule so that they are set and the public is aware of it. We will still proceed with meetings as agenda items come to place. Some of them will be canceled if there's nothing on the agenda for the commission. Okay,
Correct, or if
thank
we
you.
have to adjust schedules.
Or
like
adjust
we have
schedules,
in
correct.
the past, for various
Thank you.
reasons.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the only difference is on March, we are scheduling for March 1st for the big presentation recommendation of funding meeting.
That whole day.
Yes,
That's it.
and then also the only other difference one is an early meeting in December as well, as usual. But other than that, it's always the third Wednesday.
Great. Any other questions? What is the pleasure of the commission?
I move we adopt the proposed meeting, calendar for 2023.
Excellent.
I'll second.
All right, a second from Commissioner, yeah. All, any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, calendar passes. All right, well, moving on to item 7, matters from staff.
We do have one matter, since the Midtown Community Development Plan, was removed from this meeting. It's going to go before the governing body on January 11th. They would like the CDC to recommend approval of it. And there's a couple options. It could either be on Wednesday, January 4th or Tuesday, January 10th.
For our meeting, you mean?
Yeah,
So are we changing the meeting?
yeah,
schedule?
we would move that one up.
Should we do that right now, though? For our calendar that we just approved? Don't you think? We
I
probably
guess
should
I-
have changed it. Well, that also depends on our schedules, right? So you're thinking that we would move that so that we could hear it. So just to give a little background, the reason why I didn't move forward is it wasn't noticed correctly. It didn't have any packet material in there. So even though we were trying to introduce it last week, we noticed that there weren't any, the resolution wasn't in there, I believe. There was a missing resolution, which basically sets this moving forward. So, they have to reintroduce it next week. So it delays them kind of a month, you know, or maybe a couple weeks. So you're saying January 11th?
That is when it's going before governing body.
Uh-huh.
So, they give 2 options pretty much, Wednesday, January 4th or Tuesday, January 10th at our usual meeting time of 3:30.
Well, the interesting thing is when we have items that want to go through different committees, we do not move committee dates to accommodate an item. And I say that because EDAC, I had to negotiate an item that I wanted to get through, and I had to wait another month It's to get on EDAC's schedule. So I guess the question is, I don't know if we should be changing our schedule for one item. So either we don't hear it before it actually goes to council. And we just hear it as like info item. And you can all attend this city council meeting if you want. Again, yes. And this is the community development plan, correct? This is the second portion, which is also just as important. As the land development, so. What are your thoughts on this? Because if not, our regular meeting would be on the 18th. So,
Well, we're doing two things here. One is we're gonna get in deep doo-doo if we don't do this before the council meeting.
no, not at all. In fact, we're a recommending body. They may say, well, what does CBC think, but most of the time they don't. It's really just for our information and to, if we wanted to set a tone, like we think this is important and moving it on to council. And voting on it, even though it's just a recommendation. Or we just forego trying to change our meeting and then just get a update or presentation about it at our regular scheduled meeting. Because their goal is the 11th, but I don't know how they're gonna get that and trying to get the committees that needs to be. Alex, do you know if they changed the schedule for you all changed the schedule for the community development plan? Like what committees it's gonna go to since it got delayed?
Madam Chair, I wish Lee Logston were here because he could tell us what the committee. Yeah, because I think it's still, I mean, it still has to go to the committees, so.
Yeah, that's why I didn't think it was gonna
Yeah.
be making it till on January 11th to council, but I could be wrong about if we're reintroducing it on this 14th, we don't have any other meetings in December until January. And then January 2nd is a holiday, January 3rd, we'll probably hear that finance. Quality of life potentially, maybe public works, I don't know.
So Madam Chair, if I may,
Sure.
Madam Chair, when it comes to us, it just comes to us as information.
Yeah.
We would make not a recommend, yeah, we would give them our recommendation.
Correct.
We don't have the ability to change anything or recommend approval.
You could make, like, if there's something that you wanted folks to know that is a concern, or you
Sure, we could comment.
say, and then we would,
That would.
I would probably bring that up.
That would be a part of the
Correct,
commission's response.
correct,
Okay.
yeah. So Lee, thanks for coming back.
Sure.
We were just trying to figure out, since the introduction got delayed,
Yes.
and now that the introduction is happening in next week's meeting, what is that pathway? What are the committee pathways, and is it really gonna be voted on January 11th?
Yes, so, thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So yes, we've had a few little snafus with getting things uploaded to Prime Gov and whatnot, which have delayed this, but currently, and we had a path that would actually get it to governing body vote sooner, but it was gonna only hit like 2 committees, and we really wanted it to go through the full complement. So what we're working with now is introducing the resolution on the 14th, which is next, gosh, time's going fast. Yeah, it is next week. We'd like to come before this committee too, and Cody told me he was gonna run a couple of dates by you guys, but either roughly the 10th or something like that. Where do I?
What other committees will it go to that?
Okay, so it'll also, so the ones it's, these are scheduled. Finance Committee on January 3rd. Quality of Life on January 4th. Public Works and Utilities on January 9th. EDAC on the 11th. And Governing Body that night for vote. And then we'd like to get in to see you. I think maybe it hasn't come up yet, but Cody said he was gonna run a couple of dates by you that we can get in front of you guys as well.
Right. So we're discussing it, and so it is like, it's a fast track in that every week we have a committee meeting and we'll hear it. And then it goes to the governing body on January 11th. So I think I'll leave it up to you all. Do we want to reschedule our meeting just to accommodate this item? Or do you want to hear it just as an info item after it's passed on the 18th? Or, I don't know, I shouldn't assume it's gonna pass, but I'm saying if it passes. So,
Madam Chair, what impact does it have, Lee, if we don't hear it prior to it going before going by?
It doesn't impact it in terms of being potentially adopted in any way, since you guys, don't really have a vote, but we'd certainly love to give you guys the opportunity to be informed about it ahead of time. So if you do have comments, Madam Chair, I guess I don't actually know how those would get conveyed, but if you guys do have comments or concerns, those can get communicated at subsequent committee meetings and at governing body. So,
Is there, Madam Chair, is there a reason why it was taken off of? And you may have explained it. Was it not on our agenda?
it has to be introduced first before it goes to any committees.
yeah.
The new procedural rule.
Thank you.
This.
And I guess that night we had the resolution and other supporting materials, or no, we had all supporting materials, but didn't actually have the resolution. Like, whoa.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, and by changing it, it means like trying to figure out our different schedules, and I have meetings on the 10th and the 4th, so.
Hmm.
I'm fine with hearing it after.
You all could also hear it without me. Because I'm gonna be hearing it in every committee. And this won't be able to,
What do you mean hearing it?
I won't be able to share if you wanna change the date. But that's up to you all.
Well, I mean, we can also attend city council on the day it's being presented and hear it there.
The other option is also to get it ahead of time so that you can review it, and then if there's any questions, you can also ask Alex, or you can bring it up to me and I can also bring it up, or you can bring it up, or.
Yeah,
I guess question, Madam Chair, a question to Alexandra. I mean, how important is it for us to review and comment on it before it goes to the governing body?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Padilla, I think procedurally it's not important at all. I think it was important because the community and the governing body have a lot of respect for the work that this commission does, and so it felt like it was a good stop for the plan, because also the way our meetings are set up, we have a lot more time to be more thoughtful and really talk about things, and so it was kind of just more of a in a perfect world we would want to do this.
So we also could reschedule for January 4th.
Either way works, before or after.
What works for you?
I can make it work, because I always have back-to-back meetings anyway, which Cody and I have to leave in like 2 minutes. So to make this other meeting. So we could, definitely not the 10th for me, but the 4th could work if it works for other folks.
So put on the schedule.
And Alex, was there any other items that we had for that agenda in January, other than the community development plan?
Madam Chair, I don't believe so, but Cody can correct me. I think usually a lot of times we cancel the January meeting because we haven't ramped up into any of the approvals yet or the funding cycle yet.
Okay, then I think we should just, in this case, since we don't have other things pending, we can change the meeting for January to January 4th. And
Do we want to do that? I mean, from the discussion, it sounds to me like it's not a big issue. It's not a big deal whether or not we review it before the council meeting.
It's up to you all, like if you want to and put in your perspectives, and if there's things that that come up, I can also bring it up at council.
Madam Chair, if I can add, in terms of the overall Midtown redevelopment plans, of course, the land development plan, the master plan has already passed, but I just, for the committee's benefit and decision-making, whether you want to review this or not as a committee, is that really the community development plan is very much where you will find all the input from the community that we've collected through our engagement partners and many, many efforts over the last 2 years. I mean, these are the policy decisions. If you look in the master plan, okay, you see a plaza, that's something the community asked for, but this document really talks about how can we provide affordable housing? What are the mechanisms? What are other policy decisions that the governing body needs to make in order to make sure the community gets what they want at Midtown? So just want to throw that out there to clarify.
Change your mind,
Yeah.
I would like to, that the fourth would be good.
Okay. I just want to give you option
So,
and.
thank you for mentioning that. I mean, that's significant.
Right,
I think we're all, I mean, thinking that, oh, it's just what you did the last time.
right. No, this will be, yeah, this is a very different document.
Let's do that.
Good.
If,
Thank you.
if you could also just let Commissioner Mudgett, since we is here to make sure that works for her too, hopefully it will. And I don't think we need to amend the meeting calendar that we just passed, so we'll just say that we're adjusting it for this, for this item, yeah, for January 4th, at the same time, correct? All right, great, salute, let's do.
All
All right, moving on to matters from the commission. Anything?
So I've got a question and I'm gonna digress. The question about the innovative designs and exceed the green building criteria. What was the question again? I mean, was it,
Did it say meet or exceed?
In other words, did we really intend to say that they should exceed the green build requirements? Or meeting the minimum would be acceptable as well? And then in that case, the wording just needed to say meet or exceed.
and were you against the
No, I just
language that it
want-
said
No,
exceed?
I just wanted clarification because in the document, it said that they were willing to make concessions
Right,
for different,
okay.
the different areas. So I was just asking, is that the intent or should it be changed? And then Alex explained.
Yeah, all right.
Any other matters from listeners?
I just want to mention, Madam Chair, that the state of sustainability tax credit program that was just recently changed. That if you go towards zero energy, you can get much better tax credit, and anybody's going to develop that area should be aware of that, so they can exceed it and get, and not have to pay out their pocket. Yeah, extra will pay for that.
I mean, that was, I think it was good language. Yeah.
Well, that's the standard and we want to see how they can meet that standard. And if they don't, there's other things they can points for as well. So. Moving to run out. I don't have anything in our next meeting. January 4th. I hope you all have happy holidays and any other celebrations. that you
I haven't
have.
been in person, so I don't.
Meeting adjourned at time.
Bye.
Tony, meeting adjourned at 4:50.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. You see me?